Alright, so we're going to make some Maki. Now, we've got everything to hand, I've got everything prepared. So here I've got my pickled ginger, and that usually just comes in a jar, pre-made. We've got the soy sauce already all ready to go. Now I've actually prepared and chopped my vegetables here to go inside of the sushi. So we've got some cucumber, we've got some also pickled yellow radish, which is often used in more Asian type of cooking. You can get that in any Asian food store. And then we've got some chopped up carrot. Now all of those, they are cut up quite finely to fit down the centre of the sushi. I've got the rice here, the seaweed, which we call nori, and I've also got a dipping bowl as well. Now laid out in front of me is my workspace with some cling film on top of one of these rolling mats that you can pick up very easily. Okay, so you take a piece of the nori onto your mat and we'll start to add on some rice. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to have about a centimetre layer of rice going across the nori sushi, and you're aiming for the bottom 2/3 of the seaweed to be covered with the rice. Now I have pre-made this rice, and to do that you just need rice, sushi rice in particular, 1 part of rice with 1.5 parts of water, salted water. And what you do is you rinse the water out under the tap, rinse the rice out under the tap first. So then you get rid of any excess starch, because it's very, very sticky, starchy type of rice is sushi rice. And then once you've done that, you can actually add it onto the stove with your water. Now I'm using 2 cups of rice, so that means I've got 3 cups of water here, salted water. So you actually turn that, get that up to a boiling point. You want to try and use your, once it's up to the boiling point, you want to simmer it for roughly about 8 minutes until all of the excess water has disappeared, and then what you do is you just leave it to kind of steam itself and you cover the rice with a lid. Now I've pretty much covered my seaweed with my rice now. You want to pat it down to get rid of any holes, make sure it's a nice even layer throughout the roll. And this is why I've got a dipping bowl, because it's very, very sticky. It'll get on your fingers, so you can actually just wash that off nice and easily here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my yellow pickled radish, lay that right down the centre. Usually the length of a pickled radish is the length of the sushi, which is comes in handy. But the other parts, like the carrot and cucumber that I'm using, you just kind of spread it along, so it's got a nice, very thin layer. You don't want to go too much. You want to keep these nice and small in size. And you can use lots of different fillings. You've probably seen lots of different types of sushi fillings. It's a very basic one. Now once I've got those ingredients in the centre on top of my rice, you want to actually dampen the remaining part of the seaweed with some water with your fingers. And what that does is just like when you lick an envelope of a birthday card, then it's going to stick to the other part of the seaweed. So now you can pick up the rolling mat along with the cling film and start to push it over. You want to keep it nice and compact here, nice and tight. As you rolling it over, you want to make sure that the cling film doesn't get stuck, so you want to pull it away at the same time. Now it's sticking to the other side. Now what I like to do, and what is often done when making sushi, is just pinching the sides and pushing down on the top, like as if you're creating a square type shape of sushi. That's just to help to squeeze out any extra pockets of air, keeping it nice and compact so it doesn't fall apart at the end. Okay, rolling all the way over. Now that I've completed that, I can actually just twist up the ends of my sushi roll. That is now going to go into the fridge. And voila, this is the one I made earlier. So it's already chilled. You want to chill it for, at least 20 minutes, half an hour. And this is now ready for cooking. So the hard part is really over. You want a nice clean chopping board. Now I've got a very, very sharp knife here. I've actually sharpened this one so that when you cut the sushi that I'm taking out of the cling film, you want a very nice clean cut. Because that sushi rice, it really likes to stick, okay? Now with the seaweed that I've purchased, it actually comes with little grooves so you can see where to cut it. However, you want to try and get each length, each individual piece of sushi, the same length. Okay, so it's a very quick motion cutting. Presentation is very important when it comes to creating a nice piece of sushi. Fantastic, that's looking like a brilliant roll. I'm just going to plate this part up. Now the end pieces, they're often not looking very good, so I just scrap those over to one side. Those are my parts to eat that don't go on the plate for everybody else to see. You can kind of taste your creation before you put it out there. I'm just washing my hands, as I do have a bit of that sticky rice on my fingers, and I'm going to nicely plate up the sushi. Now you'll find that at the end you'll probably have a lot of rice left over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you something that a Korean friend of mine showed me what to do with the remaining pieces of rice, and that's where you want to create a cup shape with your hand, and then kind of want to pass it over each hand in a motion that gets a nice shaped piece of sushi. Now, I'm no artisan or professional when it comes to creating this piece, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to get it compact, creating a shape to it, and with that shape, I can place that extra bit onto my plate, and this is where I'm going to take a piece of fish. So this is fresh raw tuna. I've also got some salmon over here as well, and it's very important that if you are having sashimi, which is the raw fish in sushi, then it needs to be extremely fresh. So I've got the freshest one that I can, which was caught yesterday, and I've also, just to avoid any bacteria, I've actually flash freezed it. So that's just for about half an hour. I've put my fish in the freezer before it's frozen solid, but it's just given an opportunity to kill that bacteria. And I've also very slightly pickled it in lemon juice just to help get rid of any bacteria as well. So it's the freshest possible fish with those added flash freezing and lemon juice to keep it nice and safe to eat. Now, this piece of tuna has some nice clear set lines that I've gone along, and it's just pulled apart. I've chopped it to fit over my piece of rice. I'm going to take my other piece of fish just while we're here, do exactly the same. And I'll very generous but thin slice across. Now, The other thing that I'll mention is with tuna, it often comes in loin, that's boneless and skinless. Now with salmon, I recommend a tail end piece because that's a boneless piece. And if you have a nice fishmonger, they should be able to skin it for you. Otherwise, you just hold down, you just make a very slight insertion on the point of the tail and hold that insertion with your finger and slide the sharp knife underneath it, and you should be able to, in a very slight sawing action, cleanly cut along the skin to take the flesh off. Utilising my fishmonger skills, which I learnt when I was in college. I was working part-time as a fishmonger. I'm going to take a nice cute piece of boneless salmon and we'll put it with the other piece of rice. I think what I'll do is I'll plate up a bit of my pickled ginger, and if you want to, even a piece of cucumber, just to kind of set the plates off a bit. And that's Jack's homemade Maki.